How to achieve air conditioning in a place like a garage where you have your air handler already installed, but you don't have a mini split or a window. You don't want to deal with a window air conditioner because it's ugly and messes up your window situation for many reasons. So one method is to put a vent on the airflow outside, the air that's going away from your air handler. Usually, well, in this case, it's on the right side. Just put a $20 Home Depot Lowe's register there, just like the type that are in the ceilings of your house. And that will allow cold air to come into the garage, but there are some warnings about that. It's not to code. I think it's federal and or state code. So it's legal as long as you're using it in your house and you don't have it there when you're reselling the house. If you resell the house, you may or may not get away with it depending on the inspector. But it's really not a big deal. The main thing they're concerned about is you don't want to have air intake coming from the garage because they don't want fumes from things like gasoline cans going into your house. That's their main concern. So in this case, it's just a register on the outflow side of the air handler. And I kept the insulation square that I cut out so that for legal reasons, if I resell it, I can stick that back in there and tell the next owner they have the option to put that there if they want. Something, okay, so what that will allow is cooling your garage without having to spend more than $20. Now that's especially good if you have auxiliary cooling in your house like I do, such as mini splits. So for example, in the center of the home, I have a 12,000 BTU mini split, and in the master bed, I have a 9,000 BTU mini split. So those two working together will cool the whole house really well, which makes the central system obsolete because you don't want to use a central system if you have mini splits. So here you see it's off. So I still keep the thermostat on so I can see what the humidity level is and monitor temperature and make sure it coincides with what the mini split says it is. And that piece that I cut a square out of, I believe the HVAC technicians will call that a plenum. Plenum. This is a new one. It's 2.5 years old. So to confirm, to be sure, if this is somewhere where there are any chemicals stored, you'll want to not have return air cut in there, but your air coming out here is safer. Also, this is legal if you convert this area into a living space, which would mean generally raising the floor to the same floor height as your house. So I would have to raise this floor some 4 inches to make this a living space. And I think they want drywall on the walls, but here in Florida we have concrete walls, so I don't think the drywall's required, but I would have to insulate this garage door here. The attic already has insulation. The ceiling already has insulation, so I'm covered there. So in this case, I think, but I'm not for sure, I would have to raise my floor 4 inches. That's for flooding reasons, because living spaces can't flood. And then insulate the garage door. If you know for sure about the drywall over the concrete blocks, if that's really required or not, please let me know for the living space requirement. Another trick I mentioned in another video, is I bypassed the condensation drain that goes through the house and outside. I bypassed with a valve system where it comes into the garage sink instead with a P-trap. And so that works and is far less maintenance that way. So because garages, you generally have bugs like spiders and wasps, you'll want to keep the vent closed unless you're using it, because otherwise those wasps or whatever can go in your ductwork and then into your house. Having a vent there when it is open will affect pressure of the system. Modern systems are computerized, so do that at your own discretion. It could affect the motherboard on there. You see that computer right there? I have a computer in mine, and so it may affect how that works. I don't think it will, but it could, because inside the house, my house has about, it has 7 rooms, so it has about 14 of those spread out about that size. To add one more here, I just don't see that being such a big deal. This one will be more effective because it's so close to the blower that this one will blow more cold air. So this one should be equal to about 3 registers inside. And I've retained the return air here. The big vent in the central living area is the return air. It's going to pull this energy efficient mini split air through the system and out through the garage. And so in this case, I get largely mini split air conditioned air coming into the garage. So it takes a lot of pressure off of this expensive, inefficient 16 SEER 1 HVAC system, because my mini split is 23 SEER 2, which is quite a lot, approximately 60 to 70% more efficient than this thing. Be careful when you cut a hole there that there aren't any wires. Sometimes HVAC technicians will hide wires underneath this metal tape, which is not legal. They actually did that with me, and I ended up blowing a fuse because I hit the wire when I cut that hole. So look out for those things. So in summary, this is legal if you convert your garage into a living space or whatever room this air handler is mounted in. Sometimes these are up on the ceiling, sometimes they're vertical or on the floor possibly. Also keep in mind that these registers do leak even when they're closed. So unless I put that original square back in there and then seal it off with aluminum tape, this is always going to be leaking just a tiny bit, which is desirable in my case because I do want my garage less humid and less hot in the summer if I'm running the central air, which I probably will never again now that I've switched to mini splits. So this does make a good auxiliary system to go ahead and keep, especially if you have a new one like I do. Just spent nearly $8,000 having that put in 2.5 years ago. The technicians told me after I asked them about mini splits, wouldn't that be better to have mini splits? They said, oh no, those are too expensive and blah, 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 blah. Gotta drill holes in your walls. And well, they're partly right. If you hire somebody to install them, they are expensive, but you can install mini splits yourself. I'll have a separate video on that explaining what the things are you have to pay attention to with mini splits, which are basically the copper line set connectors are the main thing. All right, hope that was helpful.